If you had bought $1,000 worth of Starbucks stock when it went public in 1992, you wouldn't just be ahead of inflation, you would be sitting on roughly $350,000. That is a 27,000% return on investment. Better than Apple, better than Microsoft, and better than almost any other company of its era. For 30 years, Starbucks wasn't just a coffee shop, it was an economic miracle. It convinced the world to pay premium prices for a commodity that used to cost 50 cents. It grew from a local Seattle roaster to a global empire with over 38,000 stores. But that miracle seems to be crumbling right now. The stock is falling off a cliff, the stores are chaotic, is now fighting for its life against competitors in China that sell their coffee for 99 cents. Today we are going to find out how Starbucks industrialized its own soul and why it might be too late to fix it. But before we go ahead, make sure to hit that subscribe button. It helps me keep making these videos and it costs you absolutely nothing. Done? Awesome. Let's get into it. Before we talk about why Starbucks is failing, we have to talk about why it succeeded. In 1983, a guy named Howard Schultz took a trip to Milan, Italy. He walked into an espresso bar and saw something that didn't really exist in America: community. People weren't just buying caffeine, they were buying connection. The barista knew their names. There was an opera playing. It was a total theater. Schultz flew back to America with a radical idea: the third place. The concept was simple sociology. You have your first place, your home, your second place, your work, but humans need a third place as well, a neutral sanctuary to relax, read, or talk. Schultz realized that he didn't really need to sell coffee. He needed to sell rent on a leather chair and jazz music. And boy did it work. And Starbucks exploded. It went from having 165 stores in 1992 to over 3,000 by the year 2000. They aggressively cannibalized their own markets, opening stores across the street from another Starbucks store. It was a predatory real estate strategy, designed to cut local competition by mere saturation. They successfully became the living room of the world, and then they invented the pumpkin spice latte and everything changed. The core of Starbucks' recent decline isn't just about coffee beans. It is about an algorithm. In December 2014 in Portland, Oregon, Starbucks began testing a new way to order through its mobile app, and it worked. In fact, it worked way too damn well. Starbucks executives assumed that because they had a colossal infrastructure of physical stores, they could absorb the new inflow of online orders. They pushed the mobile order and pay system aggressively. The theory was simple: make buying coffee as frictionless as possible. But they forgot one simple thing: physics. Suddenly, baristas weren't just selling coffees to people standing in front of them. They were serving an infinite line of digital customers who expected their customized 4-pump vanilla spice latte to be ready the second they walked in. This turned the third place into a manufacturing plant. Operational experts call this a capacity mismatch. You cannot run a high-speed digital ordering system through a low-speed analog physical kitchen without expecting bottlenecks. The result? Congestion, anger, and a realization that Starbucks was no longer a premium experience. It is just fast food that isn't really fast. But Starbucks didn't stop. They doubled down on the efficiency of their mobile app. Today, 70% of almost 9,500 Starbucks stores in the US include a drive-thru, and only 25% are traditional cafes. Now, over 2/3 of total sales come from mobile orders, delivery, or drive-thrus. Starbucks became a billion-dollar brand based on its identity as a premium third space. Today, they are nothing more than a logistics company that sell overpriced milkshakes. And this logistics model didn't just break the customer experience, it broke the people making the coffee. For years, the Red Cup Day, the day Starbucks gives away reusable holiday cups, was company's biggest sales event. But recently it has turned into something else: the Red Cup Rebellion. Thousands of baristas across the country have walked off the job, launching the largest strikes in company's history. And their main grievance isn't even just money, it is the algorithm. They are protesting against the mobile order nightmare we just talked about. When an iPad screams 50 orders at you in 60 seconds, you are not a barista anymore. You are a machine that is malfunctioning. This has fueled a massive unionization wave under Starbucks Workers United, turning their progressive brand image into a PR nightmare of union busting allegations and labor battles. And this brings us to the second invisible battle: the cool factor. Starbucks spent 40 years convincing us that holding one of their cups was a status symbol. But for Gen Z, that status symbol is kind of dead in the water. Between the labor strikes and massive geopolitical boycotts that tanked the sale in 2024 and the corporate feel of the stores, the younger generation have gotten the ick. Markets show that Starbucks' domination amongst youngest consumers is slipping. They are fleeing to independent local cafes that actually feel like a third place Starbucks used to be. To a 20-year-old today, Starbucks doesn't really feel like Central Park from Friends anymore. It is just another McDonald's with better lighting, which means they are fighting a war on two fronts. Their own workers hate the system, and their future customers think the brand is cringe. But if you think the American meltdown is bad, it is nothing compared to the catastrophe happening at Starbucks' second home, China. Starbucks entered in China in 1991, playing the long game. They opened nearly 7,000 stores, banking on the idea that the rising Chinese middle class will always view the green mermaid cup as a status symbol. But then came Luckin Coffee. Luckin didn't care about third places. They cared about data and speed. They built tiny pickup-only kiosks with minimal rent costs and used an app-only ordering system that was faster and cheaper than Starbucks. Luckin is now beating Starbucks at its own game. It has over 20,000 stores in China compared to Starbucks' 7,000, and they sell coffee for a fraction of the price. Starbucks is now trapped in the deadly middle. They cannot lower prices enough to beat Luckin, but they are not luxurious enough anymore to justify charging 5 times as much. And so, panic set at Starbucks. After Howard Schultz returned 3 times to save the company, Starbucks finally looked outside the company. Enter Brian Niccol. Niccol is not a coffee guy. He is a turnaround guy who famously saved Chipotle from its E. coli disaster and turned Taco Bell into a lifestyle brand. Starbucks brought him in for one reason. They did not need a visionary anymore. They needed a mechanic. Niccol's plan is really aggressive, and it is called Back to Starbucks. His diagnosis was really simple. Starbucks forgot that it was a shop that served humans. He immediately announced a pause on price hikes for the fiscal years to stop alienating customers who got tired of the $9 latte. He also began finding out and shutting down inefficient stores, cutting the deadbeat locations that were cannibalizing sales from the profitable ones. But his biggest and most controversial move was who gets to sit in the chair. For years, Starbucks had an open door policy where anyone could sit and use their restroom without using a dime. Niccol argued that you cannot have a premium third space if it feels like a public bus terminal. Under his new leadership, if you want the Wi-Fi and if you want the leather chair, you have to buy the drink. He is trying to unfactory the stores by bringing back ceramic mugs, reintroducing the condiment bars so you can pour your own milk, and demanding that the baristas use Sharpies again instead of printed stickers. The strategy is clear. He wants to slow the experience down, but on the contrary, the market reality is fast. Customers have been trained to treat Starbucks as a fast-paced drive-thru. Niccol is betting his career that he can train hundreds of millions of customers to treat it like a coffee house again. But the question remains, is he fixing the culture, or is he just putting a fresh coat of paint on a crumbling structure? Starbucks has become a case study on what happens when you optimize a business to death. They traded their culture for efficiency, and in the process, they lost the only thing that made them worth $6 a cup. They might survive as a massive fast food chain, but the idea of Starbucks as a third space is dead. And once the soul of the company is gone, the stock price isn't far behind.